Are you just quickly reviewing questions?
I'm just going through my questions there.
Well, do you want to kick off on the Eddie Jones question?
Yeah.
And I'll add to that. So.
Yeah, if you guys could mix up questions with a bit of Wales, Scotland, and Ireland as well, that'd be cool.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, do you want to start the intro, Rich? Or
okay, guys, welcome back. So this is part 3. If you haven't seen part 1 and 2, we grill Zach about New Zealand, we grill Don about South Africa, and I don't know about you, but I learnt loads about insights into those countries, systems, and the future. So do check those out. But now it is their turn. They're going to grill me about England, Ireland, Scotland, and Wales. So start us off, Don. I think you have a question.
Yeah, Eddie Jones. Love him or hate him, he's your coach. Do you think he's the right person for? Do you think he's the right person for 2023? And do you think he has the right team around him?
Okay, I think the answer is yes. Basically, he's got lots of big strengths. He's got weaknesses. I think at this point to change would have been illogical. There was no reason to change, to be honest. I mean, let's go with where he works well for England. He's got lots of authority and lots of respect from the players straight away. But he's got good banter as well. And I think with English players, they want knowledge, they want authority, but they want someone who's funny, who's engaging, who's interesting. I just don't think they respond well to people who are too wooden. Like with Stuart Lancaster, amazing coach, but I think he got so caught up in all his coaching process and reading all his books, the personality didn't come across. And with English players, they want personality, and Jones has it in spades. I mean, he takes the mick out of them absolutely mercilessly. And I think they like that. And he gave England the winning edge. They desperately needed that winning edge. They'd lost it. And he really gives them that. I mean, what do you guys think about strengths before I go on to weaknesses?
Yeah, exactly what you said. I think he just gives that winning edge. He's a very cerebral guy. I find I've read his book and I found it really, really insightful how deep he gets into the game, who he surrounds himself with. I'm interested, though. What does the general public think of Eddie Jones? I know he's very, very good for the players, I agree, and he's certainly the best option given everything considered. But what does the general public think of him?
The thing is, because he wins, because he's kind of funny, you can forgive a fair bit, but he goes over the line. Sometimes he goes over the line, and it exasperates you. It's like that uncle that you really like, but then when he says that inappropriate thing, you're like, oh my goodness, why did he say that? It's not like we don't like him. It's like, oh come on. Sometimes he's just got to reel himself in, Okay. So to go on to the weaknesses now, the guy, he runs his mouth basically. I think people say that he thinks about everything he says, and that is so not the case. Sometimes he'll just say stuff for a laugh and get it wrong. Sometimes it borders on offensive as well. That's what he needs to improve. And then he goes on to antagonise, which goes over to actually help the opposition in motivating them. So if he learns...
Good example of that was... I was going to say a good example of that was against France this year, in going over there and some of the rhetoric that was coming before that match around how they're really going to beat them up. And, as a French team, you probably think it's a bit of motivation there.
Yeah, if he can just contain himself. I really think he's a fantastic coach. There's a few players that obviously we think he should look at, but and he's got lucky a few times, to be honest. He has got a bit lucky. Like he took Billy Vunipola to the World Cup and no other number 8s, and he got away with it because no one got injured. And there's a few examples of him only taking, say, 2 fly halves and whatnot. And he's had a few breaks, but he's also made his luck with some great tactical calls. I think, Zach, you made a whole video on the England-New Zealand game, which was an example of tactical masterclass, really, from him.
Yep, I thought so.
Anything else, Andy Jones, then, guys?
Nothing on Jones.
I think you got him for a little while, so.
Okay, go for it. Zach, you got a question?
Okay, I might talk about Scotland. For me, they were one of the big improvers, I guess, of this year's Six Nations, and really, really impressed by their play defense. Starting to show some really real good strengths in the forwards there, but they're in that sort of middle level, I guess. What do you think they need to do to take that next step up and really start challenging towards the top? And also, just the second part of the question on Scotland, how do we solve the problem of Finn Russell? And in particular, his relationship with the coach.
Okay, hang on. Okay, what was the first? So, first question.
How do they take that next step up?
It's like the daily coronavirus briefing with 10 questions. Okay, so Scotland are a brilliant team, but they're a small pool. They're a smallish fish. The number of players they've got, the amount of money they've got is limited. I mean, they've only got 2 professional teams. They're very smart in how they use them. You know, like they say, right, Edinburgh and Glasgow are our 2 teams. The second tier, you know, you can't be fully professional. They're very overt in their recruitment. Like they really go after Scottish qualified players who aren't in Scotland, and they're very open about it. But at the end of the day, they're a smallish fish that always swim in the big pond. And they get compared. Every year they get compared against England, France, Ireland, Wales, who are slightly, either much bigger or slightly bigger than them. So it's a little unfair in certain ways. So you can make an argument they're actually doing really well, but they need to convert. They've got to some winning positions, and they just need to convert a few more winning positions. I wouldn't expect them to win every game. But say when they went to Ireland, they had a great chance of beating Ireland, and they didn't quite do it. So those are the games they need to win. I wouldn't expect them to win every game, but yeah, they've got to convert a bit more.
And what do you think the key is? Can they do it? Are there any key roles that they need to focus on? Is there anything you can sort of see as important for them to take that leap and start converting some of those games?
Well, it's fascinating, really. I thought their big weakness in the last couple of years has been their forward pack. Haven't quite been as competitive against, say, the likes of England or Ireland, Wales, and they've really gone to solve that. They've got Sutherland in, he's not a spring chicken, but he's a revelation. Ferguson, brilliant. Cummings, just off the top of my head. Oh, I've got my lunch coming here as well. Thank you very much. Thank you. Oh, hang on, guys. This is live. I've got
Lucky for some. No deliveries coming through my door.
Right, put it down. Thank you so much. That's brilliant. Thank you. Right, I've got stuff all over my lap now. But that's cool. Yeah.
We'll let you edit that one out.
They obviously thought it was going on too long. Anyway, so they're kind of half sorted their pack, really. Ritchie's a brilliant player. Watson's a fantastic player. So yeah, that's a big change they've done. So Finn Russell, that was your second part.
Yep. Yeah. Well, just before we go on to that, let me ask one question. Do they win those games against Ireland and against England this year with Russell in the team? Because they weren't far off. They weren't far off.
No. Let's go for yes. I think maybe they'd have won against Ireland with Russell in the team. Hastings is a good player. He's not at Finn Russell's level yet. But here's the thing which is so weird. Finn Russell and Gregor Townsend, they don't go together well. The Scottish game plan ironically doesn't go well with Finn Russell, because Gregor Townsend, he really wants to control things. He wants to start to be a bit more forward orientated, a bit more structured. And that is not Finn Russell's bag. You saw him in Racing 92. They've literally, Finn Russell, you need to trust him with your car. You need to give him the keys to your Porsche and say, you go and drive as fast as you like. I'll pay for any damage. And Racing 92 will do that. Gregor Townsend does not want to give him the keys to his car. He wants to sit next to him with dual controls and push the brake and clutch in sometimes, and they've butted heads badly because of it. All right?
That's a Cipriani kind of issue.
Yeah. Yes. Very much, Cipriani. But you need a specific type of coach to say, I am building my team around you, and you get whatever you want, to be honest. And neither Townsend or Eddie Jones really wants to do that, but Townsend has to because he's his best player.
Yeah.
Okay. Any more questions?
Yeah. Well, mine's more around Ireland. Obviously, there's a few sides that I watch quite a lot of, and when I first started my channel, I was sent a lot of jerseys from Ireland and things like that. So I just started watching them, out of just support. It just seems like there's something missing in the side. I'm not sure what it is. For me, it's an enforcer, but I'm just thinking there is something missing in the side because they've got the players to be absolutely world class, and on their day they can probably beat anyone. But it comes to World Cup, it comes to the big tournaments, they just seem to fall short. Where do you see Ireland? What are they missing?
I actually had a good answer written down for this, but it's got like food all over it now, so don't worry about it. Ireland are fascinating. They were in such a great place in 2018, beating New Zealand, looking absolute world beaters. And I remember doing a video at the end of 2018 saying, should they stick or twist? Do they need to change? Mm-hmm. And they stuck. They stuck with what they had, and the whole world moved on and left them behind completely. They've been playing catch-up ever since. It was obviously too late for the World Cup. And Ireland have had great teams in the World Cup. They had a good team this year again. And every time the World Cup's come around, they've underperformed, which is this is a big issue in Irish rugby. They've been great. They've won Six Nations, Grand Slams, players like Brian O'Driscoll, Paul O'Connell. But when it comes to the big World Cup, they haven't been able to deliver. So Andy Farrell's got this massive choice now of what to do. And so far, he's gone for the steady approach. You can see him bringing in these young players, but they haven't really had a chance to play yet. He's gone back to a more traditional type game. So time will tell how he evolves his team. At the moment, he's gone for a solid base, and then we'll see. So I don't think I can comment just yet, but if he gets players like Kelleher into hooker, Doris in, Deegan in, Conan in the back row, Carberry in there somewhere, maybe 10, 15. They've got a chance of playing however they want to play, but we don't know yet.
Well, it'll be interesting to see if they can get over that mental barrier as well. But Doris in particular, I'm a big fan of. I think he's going to be one of the best.
He's got an outside chance of getting in the Lions if he has a big year next year.
Yeah, I agree. I agree there on that one.
Cool. Any other questions?
Moving on. So let's talk about the Lions.
Cool.
I'm interested in your thoughts on this. So it's been quite interesting. I mean, and I want to talk about who you would select as captain and why. And before we go to that, I just want to preface that we've had a number of really, really good Lions leaders, let me say. And they're all in that mold of the stoic, strong, determined forward leader of men. Is it a time to move away from that? Because let's be honest, the last few tours, great result in New Zealand, but prior to that, it's been a difficult thing. And I just wonder from a leadership perspective, is that where you start? And who would you select as your leader for that Lions tour?
I beg to differ slightly. I think in 2009, I think they really could and probably should have beaten South Africa. South Africa were the world champions, but the team they had in 2009 was nowhere near their 2017. But well done to them for winning it. 2013, I thought the Lions were a lot better than Australia. Australia were great. I thought they had a good team and they played well, but the Lions I thought were brilliant. 2017, to be honest, New Zealand were better, should have won it, and the Lions managed to nick the draw, and well done to them. So I think they've actually done pretty well. Leadership-wise, there's some good options. It's all going to depend who you're going to give the start to. If you give it to Alan Wynne-Jones, who's an obvious option, he'd be a great leader of men for sure, lead by example in the forwards. But then you'd have to give him a starting spot and basically say one of a Tojay Ryan, Laws, Cruz, only one of you can start, which might be a problem. I can see them giving it to Farrell. As much as I know you don't like Farrell, Don, that's kind of the point. That's kind of the point. If you play for him, if you play on his team, he's an absolute legend. You know, the players really like him. They really respect him. He is a leader of men. If you're on the opposition, you hate him because he winds you up and he goes over the top and he does get too antagonistic for sure. But if the players can get over that and see him as their captain, he really could. He does lead by example. You know, apart from that, you could go someone out of the box like a Tojay or Ryan, but that's the real risk when you've got a couple of guys who could do it really well in South Africa. Alan Wynne-Jones and Farrell would not be fazed by facing South Africa where most people would. So I think either of those two, there's plenty of arguments either way. I don't know what your thoughts are.
Oh no, I agree with you. I think there's something that Owen Farrell really brings to the table. I actually think he's building as a leader as well. Really, really strong leadership.
He's only been doing it he hasn't been leading that long.
Yeah, but I mean, he's got a great mentor in his old man for sure. You know, so you'd have to say there's a real training ground that he's been through for a long time. And that's exactly why I asked the question. I just wonder if it's time for the Lions to move away from the stoic, leader of men and focus more on a guy that is going to give everything, maybe get a little bit under the skin, maybe a little bit different in leadership style, but certainly doesn't drop anything in terms of leading, a strong team.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting, but I really can't see past Farrell or Alan Wynne-Jones. Gatland's very pragmatic, and he trusts those two. He really does. As much as other teams don't like Farrell, Gatland really trusts him. He gave him the reins in 2017. He'd happily do it again. He'd happily do it with Alan Wynne-Jones. And to him to turn to someone else unproven that he doesn't trust so much, I just can't see it.
Yeah, unlikely.
Yep. Guys, we've got time for one more quick question, maybe.
I want to talk about the Premier League. I'll be honest, I love Premier League rugby. I think it's
the football's the Premier League.
Premiership. Yeah, I really enjoy the rugby that's played there. I think the difference between the top and the bottom spot is a lot closer than, say, in Super Rugby. Between 1 and 10. Yep. I think between the Crusaders and the Bulls, there's a huge, big difference. Whereas I think it's London Irish at the moment, or at 10. I think they might be a little bit higher. I don't know who's at the top. Exeter. And I find the games they're a lot closer, and it's a lot more entertaining from a that kind of point of view. And my question is, you've got such high quality rugby there. Why hasn't that not translated maybe into a more success at the World Cup? Because in all honesty, England should have the same amount of victories as New Zealand and South Africa. They've got the quality, they've got the depth, they've got the coaches, they've got everything's ticked for them, but it just doesn't seem to have happened. Is there a huge big jump between the two, or what are your insights on that?
Oh, you finished on an absolute whopper of a question, Don. Thanks, sir. So in the Premiership at the moment, the gap between top and bottom is literally zero, because at the bottom at the moment, who's at the bottom, guys? Saracens.
So flip the table upside down.
So ignoring that, the qualities there. London Irish have got some great players as well. Likes of Worcester, Sale come right back. There's some really good teams. Often based on South Africans, I'll give you that. But some really good teams. England have the most players. They've got the most money. But the thing is, you can only put 23/15 on a pitch at once. So if your 23 is comparable to, say, Ireland's 23, there's not going to be a gulf between it. Even if you could put out 4 23s compared to their 123, that's irrelevant. It's completely irrelevant. So, I mean, with England, selection is a bigger issue than other countries. Because, say, in Wales, they've got 23-30 amazing players, but it's pretty obvious who they are, and it's kind of just working out which of the 30 they put in their 23, for example. With England, it's a massive job of getting the right player. I mean, fly half, you play George Ford, Owen Farrell, Marcus Smith, stacks of Simmons from Exeter. There's stacks of guys who could play 10 for England, for example, but you can only take 1 or 2, and then you've got to stick with them. And English players aren't any better than say New Zealand and South Africa players. In some ways, maybe they're not as good. And so I take the point that England should win more World Cups if you look at the pure numbers, but that's not the way sport works, really. And they haven't had a special team for a long time. This year, really, was the first time they've had what I would call a special 23 since 2003. They've had some good, solid teams, but they haven't had the array of talent in one place that they've got at the moment. So it was a big miss to lose that World Cup. South Africa deserved it. They absolutely thumped England in that final. So that was by far the best chance England have had since 2003 of winning a World Cup. Yeah. Anything else you want to know?
No, it sounds like you've certainly got the player pool there to do it. It's going to be banking on that man Eddie Jones to pull them all together. Good luck with that.
I mean, on the positive, look, there's so many good players coming through the English system at the moment. They're more skillful than they used to be. I think you might be surprised the number of playmaking type 10s, 15s, 10s coming through. I think I listed like 10 in one of my videos once. And it's just who you go for. You put your money on, what style do you go for? And there's a glut of excellent flankers coming through as well. And it's all who you put your money on.
Great. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, appreciate that.
Okay, so I think we're coming up to like 20 odd minutes again. Guys, thank you so much for joining me. That was a good session there. And hopefully plenty of stuff for people to think about. Put comments below. And we'll probably do this again at some point when there's something else to talk about.
Sounds good. Thanks, mate.
Okay, guys. Stay safe then. Thank you very much.